Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Pause whatever you are doing, set the phone aside, raise the volume and listen very carefully because what we have just seen, what has just unfolded on the hard courts of Abu Dhabi is far more than a tennis match. It is a seismic moment. It represents a realignment of power in women's tennis. We came into today expecting a coronation. We arrived anticipating the heavy firepower of the Russian Federation, the world number 11, the second seed Katarina Alexandrova, to move forward, overpower the opposition and reassert her authority as she has done repeatedly on these quick hard courts. But tonight the narrative was torn apart. Tonight the unlikely became unavoidable. The headline you're seeing is real. The shockwaves spreading through Moscow, through St. Petersburg, and across the entire tennis establishment are real. Alexandra Eala, the pride of the Philippines, the 20-year-old left-handed fighter who was on the brink just 24 hours ago, has done the unimaginable. She didn't simply test the hierarchy, she dismantled it. In a quarterfinal that will be discussed for years, Alexandra Eala defeated Katarina Alexandrova. Let that register. The world number 45 has taken down the world number 11. And it's not only that she won, it's the manner in which she did it. This was a war of endurance, a contest of will, a David versus Goliath story unfolding in real time under the bright lights of Zaid Sports City. This was supposed to be Alexandrova's tournament. She is a flat-hitting force. She is the player who strikes the ball with such pace that it seems to carry no spin. She dismantled Diana Yastremska in under an hour in the previous round. She was fresh, she was rested, she was powerful. Across the net stood Alex Eala, a young woman who had spent 3 hours on court just the day before. A player who had been down 0-4 in the third set against Alexandra Sasnovich, balanced on the edge of elimination, staring into the void and somehow dragged herself back. Critics said she would be exhausted. Analysts said her legs would be heavy. They claimed Alexandrova's pace would overwhelm her, would suffocate her, would expose her defensive style. The betting lines were heavily lopsided. Commentators were already debating Alexandrova's semi-final opponent before the first ball was struck. They were wrong. All of Russia is stunned tonight because their star, their powerhouse, has been sent home by a player who refused to obey the limits of physics and fatigue. Eala didn't merely endure, she flourished. She absorbed the speed. She redirected the force. She used that left-handed spin to pull Alexandrova out of her comfort zone in ways she could not counter. This win is enormous. It is historic. We are looking at a possible top 30 breakthrough for Eala if this run continues. We are watching her 5th career WTA quarterfinal evolve into the biggest semi-final appearance of her career at the WTA 500 level. But beyond rankings and prize money, this is a declaration. This is a message delivered to the locker room. The Manila Maiden is no longer just a prospect. She is a threat. She is a giant killer. Tonight we are going to break this down moment by moment. We will examine the tactics, the mental battles, the decisive turning points, and the absolute chaos of the closing stages. We will discuss how Alexandrova's serve, normally her greatest weapon, failed her under the relentless pressure of Eala's return game. We will talk about the crowd, the thousands of Filipinos in attendance who transformed a neutral match into a home environment, chanting, cheering, and pushing their player over the line. So buckle in. If you love tennis, if you appreciate underdogs, if you crave pure, unfiltered sporting drama, you are in the right place. We are going deep. We are dissecting the anatomy of a shock. This is the story of how Alexandra Eala stunned the world, stunned Russia, and etched her name into the history of the Abu Dhabi Open. Let's begin. To truly grasp the scale of what happened today, we need context. You cannot admire the summit without understanding the climb. Let's start with Katarina Alexandrova. Entering this match, she was playing some of the best tennis of her career. At 31, she is a seasoned professional. She knows these courts. She thrives on fast surfaces because her game is built around pace. She uses minimal topspin, striking the ball flat, hard, and deep like a laser. When she is locked in, she is nearly untouchable. In the round of 16, she faced Diana Yastremska, a dangerous opponent, and made it look like a training session, winning 6-3, 6-0. She was efficient and ruthless, spending barely an hour on court. She entered this quarterfinal with a full tank, high confidence, and the awareness that she was the highest seed remaining in her section of the draw. The route to the final appeared clear. All that stood in her way was a 20-year-old Filipina. Now consider Alexandra Eala's situation. Her circumstances could not have been more different. She's 20 years old. She's ranked 45th in the world, a career high, yes, but still far removed from the elite tier. Her journey to this quarterfinal was anything but smooth. It was rugged and demanding. Just 24 hours earlier, she played the match of her life against Alexandra Sasnovich. The numbers matter here, nearly 3 hours on court. She dropped the opening set. She trailed 0-4 in the third. She faced match points. She had to tap into the deepest reserves of physical and emotional strength to survive and win in a tiebreak. From a physiological standpoint, Eala should have been drained. Recovery time was minimal. The emotional aftermath of such a dramatic victory often leads to a flat showing the following day. This is a well-documented pattern in sport. The surge of adrenaline followed by the crash, that was what Alexandrova was counting on. That was the Russian camp's calculation, that if they raised the tempo early, Eala's legs would fail, and to be fair, that is exactly how it looked in the opening set. Alexandrova started firing immediately. It was relentless. The sound off her racket was explosive, bang bang bang. She took the ball early, stepped inside the baseline and punished Ella's second serve. Ella appeared half a step slow, her reactions were just a fraction late. Against a hitter like Alexandrova, being a millisecond behind means you're already beaten. Ella struggled to find her timing. Her left-handed forehand, normally her biggest asset, landed short, and against Alexandrova, short balls are fatal. She stepped in and blasted winners into the corners. The first set vanished quickly. Alexandrova broke in the fourth game, then again in the eighth. The set ended 6-2. It looked exactly like the mismatch the rankings suggested. Alexandrova won 80% of her first serve points and dominated rallies under 4 shots. It was clean, efficient power tennis. The Filipino fans who had filled the stands grew quiet. You could feel the energy drain from the stadium. Reality seemed to settle in. Fatigue appeared to have caught up with Ella. At that moment, if you stopped watching, no one would blame you. It felt like the run was over. Alexandrova looked imperious, barely sweating, barely breathing hard, walking to the changeover with the calm of someone already planning her evening. But this is where Ella's brilliance emerged. This is where her maturity, beyond her years, became evident. During the break between sets, she did not panic. She didn't call for a trainer. She simply sat with a towel over her head and recalibrated. She understood she could not win a shootout. Matching Alexandrova's raw power would lead to defeat, so she altered the geometry of the match. When the second set began, Ella adjusted her court position. She stood slightly farther back on return to gain time. Instead of attempting flat winners, she introduced the moonball not as a defensive bailout but as a calculated tactic in the natal mold. She began sending heavy looping topspin deep into Alexandrova's backhand corner. The reason was simple. Flat hitters despise high balls. They want contact at hip height. When the ball rises above the shoulders, they can't flatten it, can't produce the same speed, and are forced to adjust. Alexandrova's rhythm started to unravel. Shots mistimed. Forehands clipped the net. Backhands sailed long, unforced errors crept in. Ella sensed the momentum shift. She grunted louder. She pumped her fist after every point. She dragged Alexandrova into extended exchanges. Alexandrova wants points finished in 3 shots. Ella stretched them to 10, 12, 15. And the longer the rally lasted, the more it favored the Filipinas' resilience and defense. The second set became a grind, 3-all, 4-all. Then at 5-4 with Alexandrova serving to stay in the set, the pressure peaked. The crowd came alive. "Let's go," Ella echoed around the stadium. Alexandrova, usually composed, looked irritated. She glanced at her box. She gestured at the surface. She was unsettled. On set point, Ella produced a stunning passing shot, a full-stretch forehand down the line that kissed the paint. The stadium exploded. Ella took the set 6-4, 1 set apiece. Now came the third, the danger zone. Logic said the physical edge should return to Alexandrova. Ella had now logged 4 intense sets across 2 days on top of the previous marathon. By all reasoning, she should cramp, she should fade, but adrenaline is powerful and belief is stronger. The final set opened with Ella breaking immediately. Alexandrova's first serve percentage collapsed. She pressed, trying to blast through Ella's defense, but the ball kept coming back. Ella became a wall. Every missile was returned. In the third game came the defining moment. Alexandrova earned a break point and approached with a drive volley that seemed a guaranteed winner. Ella read it, sprinted left, and lifted a perfect topspin lob that dropped on the baseline. Alexandrova froze, hands on hips. Her body language changed. It was acceptance. She knew this opponent would not disappear. From 2-0, Ella surged to 3-0, then 4-1. The stadium fell silent. The commentators were stunned. Was this really happening? Was the world number 11 about to exit like this? Alexandrova mounted one last charge. She broke once to make it 4-2, then held for 4-3. The tension was thick. Ella served at 4-3 and faced 2 break points. If she lost the game, momentum would swing. This was the crucible. Down 15-40, Ella struck an ace, finding the tee under maximum pressure. At 30-40, she entered a 20-shot rally. Moving relentlessly, the final game, with Alexandrova serving to stay alive, descended into complete chaos. You could see the tension written all over the Russian's face. She double-faulted at 15-15. Then she sprayed a forehand wide at 15-30. 2 match points for Alexandra Eala. On the first match point, Ella went after a big return and missed, 30-40. On the second match point, Alexandrova cracked a huge serve out wide. Ella barely got her racket on it, floating a short chip back. Alexandrova charged the net for the finish. The entire court was open. She could have placed it anywhere, but she hesitated. She saw Ella moving. She tried to be too fine and pushed the volley wide. It drifted long. The line judge shouted it out. There was a pause. Ella looked to the umpire. The umpire confirmed it. Game, set, match. What followed was raw emotion. Ella dropped her racket. She collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. It was the same scene we witnessed the day before, but amplified tenfold. She had just defeated a top 15 player. She had just beaten a proven veteran on her best surface. Alexandrova met her at the net. The handshake was brief and icy. You could tell Alexandrova was stunned. She could not process that she had lost the match. She packed her bags and stormed off the court. She knew this was a huge mischance. For someone of her ranking, losing to the world number 45 in a quarterfinal is a catastrophe. It's a jolt to the system. For Ella, the on-court interview was electric. She thanked the OFWs, the overseas Filipino workers who showed up in force. She talked about the exhaustion, saying, "I didn't feel my legs in the third set, I just played with my heart." And that was the truth. That final set was powered entirely by heart. Why is the headline "Russia Shocked" accurate? Because Russian women's tennis is a powerhouse. It has depth, it has tradition. Alexandrova is one of its leaders. She is steady. She rarely loses to players outside the top 30. For her to fall to a rising Filipina star from a nation not known as a tennis stronghold is a wake-up call. It signals how global the sport has become. It shows that the next generation, led by players like Eala, is ready to take control. This result blows the draw wide open. The expected semifinal was Alexandrova versus the next seed. Now that projection is gone, Eala becomes the wild card. She is the dangerous floater nobody wants to face because she plays fearless tennis with everything to gain and nothing to lose. Let's take a quick look at the numbers because they tell a compelling story. First serve percentage. Alexandrova opened around 70%, but by the third set it dropped to 55%. Eala's pressure shattered her rhythm. Unforced errors. Alexandrova finished with 45. That is far too many. Eala forced her into overpressing. By contrast, Eala had just 20. She was a human wall. Break points converted. Eala was ruthless, cashing in 4 of 6 chances. She delivered when it mattered. Alexandrova had 10 break points and converted only 2. That was the difference. Mental strength on the biggest points. This was a tactical masterpiece. Eala took apart Alexandrova's game. She neutralized the Russians' biggest weapon, pace, by using height, spin, and variation. She turned the court into a chessboard and put the Russian queen into checkmate. So what happens next? The fairy tale rolls on. Alexandra Eala is through to the semifinals of the Abu Dhabi Open. She has already eliminated a Grand Slam finalist earlier in the tournament, Sasnovich, and now a top 15 stalwart in Alexandrova. She's playing with house money. She's playing with the belief of a champion. The ranking consequences are massive. With this victory, she is projected to break into the top 40, possibly even the top 35 depending on other outcomes. That secures direct entry into the biggest events in the sport, the Grand Slams and the WTA 1000s. No more qualifying rounds, no more grinding on outer courts. She has arrived on the main stage. But for tonight, let's simply appreciate the moment. Let's appreciate the resilience. In a sports world obsessed with raw power and athleticism, Eala reminded us that the mind and the heart are the strongest muscles of all. She proved that you can be tired, you can be the underdog, you can be outmatched on paper and still find a way to win if you refuse to quit. Russia is stunned. The tennis world is buzzing. The Philippines is celebrating. I want to hear from you in the comments. Be honest, after that first set, did you think it was over? Did you believe Eala had nothing left? And what's your take on Alexandrova's performance? Did she choke or did Eala simply take it from her? Also, drop your predictions for the semifinals. Can Eala go all the way? Can she lift the trophy in Abu Dhabi? It sounds unbelievable, but after the last 2 days, I'm done calling anything impossible when it comes to Alexandra Eala. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel because we'll be covering the semifinal live, with the preview, the play-by-play, and the post-match breakdown right here. You won't want to miss it. This is history in motion. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive. It's been a pleasure breaking down this incredible thriller with you. The tennis world is changing and we are witnessing it unfold right before our eyes.